மதுரையில் நடைபெற்று வரும் மார்க்சிஸ்ட் கம்யூனிஸ்ட் கட்சியின் அகில இந்திய மாநாட்டில் கேரள முதலமைச்சர் பினராயி விஜயன் உரையாற்றி வருகிறார். நேரலை காட்சிகள்.
Both from the political and fiscal sides. In the 1980s and later, in the first decade of the 2000s, the Union government appointed the Sarkaria and the Punchi commissions to suggest measures in this regard. These commissions submitted many useful recommendations. Unfortunately, not many of them have come into effect. Nevertheless, there have been changes. If we look back a little into history, it can be seen that our constitution was framed under the abnormal circumstances, that is, in the aftermath of large-scale communal violence and bloodshed following the partition at the dawn of independence. Given this atmosphere that prevailed during the time when the Constitution was being shaped, it came to contain very strong centralizing features and emergency provisions. Be that as it may, the question that bothers us most in the present scenario is whether in recent times our polity is becoming more and more unitary in nature even during normal times. This, I would say, is the peril faced by federalism in India today. The prospects ahead depends on how best we are able to counter this tendency in a democratic manner. Federalism is now judicially recognized as a part of the basic structure of our Constitution. There have been interventions from the Supreme Court and the High Courts since the 1990s, when powers under Article 356, which enables the Union to take over the administration of a state on perceived breakdown of the constitutional machinery, have been invoked. In the period since independence, this has been the most overused article of our Constitution, belying the fond hope of the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, that Article 356 would remain a dead letter. Having said this, I would now turn to the fiscal side before discussing the political aspect in union-state relations. Mutual respect and recognition of powers of the states in their constitutionally provided legislative domain is the basic principle of a federal setup. States are facing an inbuilt imbalance of fiscal powers, as stated clearly by the 15th Finance Commission. While states have nearly 62% of the total expenditure obligations, they have power to raise only 38% of the total revenues. This fiscal imbalance is being worsened by the expanding number of centrally sponsored schemes in which the states are being made to bear an increasing cost burden. Since 2015-16, the share of the states has increased from 25 to 40% in most of these schemes. At present, the Union decides the minute details of the centrally sponsored schemes, making them one size fits all across the states, which are having vastly different local conditions. Of late, the Union is also insisting that these schemes, funded jointly by the Union and the states, should be branded as Union schemes. This has become a major point of difference, and some of the states have expressed very strong reservations in reducing schemes with national priorities as publicity for the ruling dispensation at the center, with the states being made to act as vehicles of propaganda. This trend goes counter not only to federalism but also to democracy. States need to have full freedom to spend in the items constitutionally allotted to them. If the Union considers certain priorities important, it should discuss these with the states, and together broad parameters can be laid down. Instead, conceiving schemes with rigid criteria and insisting that states act as brand ambassadors of the ruling party at the center cuts at the root of federalism and democracy. Conceiving schemes with rigid criteria and insisting that states act as brand ambassadors of the ruling party at the center cuts at the root of federalism and democracy. We need to raise our voice in the strongest possible manner against this tendency. Apart from the above examples of incursions into the legislative domain of states include union legislations on minor ports, dam safety, and the formation of Ministry of Cooperation. All these are subjects in the state list of the 7th schedule of the Constitution. On the revenue side, tax rates across the country have been made uniform, first under the value-added tax and then under the goods and services tax. As a result, states lost much of their already limited fiscal space to mobilize own tax revenue. Though some argue that GST is based on sharing of tax sovereignty, it cannot be omitted to note that the rate sharing in GST regime is unfavorable to the states.
மார்க்சிஸ்ட் கம்யூனிஸ்ட் கட்சியின் அகில இந்திய மாநாடு மதுரையில் நடைபெற்று வரும் நிலையில் அம்மாநாட்டில் கேரள முதலமைச்சர் பினராயி விஜயன் உரையாற்றிய நேரலை காட்சிகளை பார்த்தோம்.